140.
Bunting didn't play in the final Players' Championship event of last year, and had he taken part in that, he could have ended up being the #1 seed for Minehead, which is some achievement considering he might not have won a title. Might have reached another final that day, who knows?
$140.
Yeah, I mean, the usual parade of idiocy that is social media. Some have questioned whether he should be in the Premier League. There was literally no question about it. He was such an obvious pick for the Premier League because of the standard of darts he produced over the last year or so.
He was probably the only obvious one outside the top four who were guaranteed.
Make a very strong case for him playing more consistent darts than the likes of Rob Cross and Michael van Gerwen leading up to the Premier League.
Shot on the first leg.
Callan Rydz takes out the 97 in the opening leg to get a hold of throw. Only ever beaten Bunting the once, Callan Rydz. Didn't play at all last year, which is kind of strange because Stephen Bunting, as you already said, he was winning so many games. You're going to run into Bunting at some point. That's kind of how it worked.
140.
Dobie and Bunting, they were the two. You'd end up playing one of them at some point if you won a few games on these Pro Tours.
He was for much of last year an immovable object in these sorts of arenas.
80.
Still hasn't managed to win one of these titles since 2021 now, Stephen Bunting. And in the same time, Rydz has won
60.
3 of them. Or two of them, actually.
Yeah. He has won on the World Series already this year, though, Bunting, and of course did pick up that big Masters win, which was the
100.
biggest title of his career in the PDC. Leaves himself on 80 after 4 visits to the board. Rydz
140.
just a point behind. Double 10. Yeah, excellent stuff. 14 data. Could be very, very good this game.
66.
We have seen Callan produce some very good darts at points this year. Thinking back to that semi-final against his Northeast colleague Chris Dobie and Rosmarlin.
58.
Could have won the match with a 170. Instead, he spurned opportunities. Dobie went through to the final to face Jelle Klassen. Case of what
100.
might have been for Rydz.
Yeah, he'd have been the heavy favourite to beat Klassen in that final. Jelle was very much a surprise. The same way that Ian White was a surprise, reaching the final yesterday.
180.
Here comes the bullets.
60.
Mentioned Chris Dobie. He's 3-0 down in his board final, taking on Connor Scott, a man who's not had a great deal of fortune. People have been playing world-class darts against him in these events so far this year. Maybe today is where he gets
93.
some of that fortune paid back at him.
60. 60.
Only 60 scored. Rydz with a chance to try and apply the pressure.
140.
And he does. Leaves a 2-darter. Over to the 18s. Usual shot of
53.
choice of shot.
$18 for tops.
35.
Wow, he says. Callan Rydz not impressed with that attempt at double top. Double 10 is there again. Well, Stephen Bunting, who we know stands over to the right-hand side of the oche, that double 10 is pretty much straight down the line for him. Certainly, as a viewer,
97.
I always feel I usually feel more confident about Bunting throwing at that than perhaps targets over on the other side of the board. And obviously double 16 is his go-to double most of the time. But double 10 does feel like he's a good double 10 hitter.
$180.
Almost as if he's making the game more difficult for himself, standing from 8 foot, basically.
$92.
Looks like an absolute barnstormer between Raymond van Barneveld and Damon Heta. 4 legs played in that, 2 apiece, 108 average Barney. That is 10 points less than what Heta is averaging.
84. $58. $145.
Don't mind that as a setup shot. 145 to leave tops. Will it be rendered irrelevant? Oh, it is. Last start in hand. And the same point about where he stood when he's throwing that double 16. If he misses outside, by the very nature of it, he's throwing across the board. So those darts are kicking over slightly. So it's sort of almost shutting the door. He's having to cram it between an angled dart and the board.
100.
So you can see how that can get tricky when he's missing outside.
100.
You mentioned the winner of this will face Edhouse or De Decker. Looking more like De Decker. He's 4-1 up against the European champion, averaging 104.
Steady darts from Mike De Decker.
100.
Steady stuff from Stephen Bunting here. He's averaging 103 himself. Rydz averaging 98, as you can see. But his opportunities have been limited. 1 dart in leg 3, missed that.
56.
Had a couple of darts in the open leg, took one of those chances.
140.
He'll get darts in this leg, though.
$55. $27.
They were pretty wild.
Bunting going through his routine. Little sip of the water, a dab of the hand on the towel. Can't get the 151 checkout started.
93.
First dart here is no gimme. He gets that done.
7.
The darts at double, they're not just missing, they're missing by some distance, Callan Rydz, in this leg.
Game shot on the 5th leg.
That didn't miss, and Callan Rydz expresses his disgust at Stephen Bunting stepping in to go 4-1 up with a break of throat.
Well, they didn't play last year, but Bunting beat Rydz sort of halfway through 2023 in one of these events. He beat him twice on the Euro Tour the year before that. You've got to go back to 2020, back when we were playing
65.
lockdown COVID darts in the Winter Series for the one victory that Callan Rydz has enjoyed over Stephen Bunting. It is a long, old time.
82.
And let's have it right, Stephen Bunting is a better player now than he was back in 2020.
134. $58. $40.
Well, Callan Rydz never hides how he's feeling, and you just wonder whether Stephen Bunting can feed off that frustration. It's been a
180.
good performance from the Bullet.
He started today so well, Callan Rydz, but
71.
the wheels are kind of falling off here. Stephen Bunting's been ensuring that he doesn't get any breathing space or time to get the wheels back on, because that's another 14 darter for the Bullet, and he's one leg away. He's averaging 101.
58.
And this is like watching Stephen Bunting in the Players' Championship Series. Oh, it's just dropped below 100, I should say, following that checkout of 41. But this is like watching Stephen Bunting pretty much all the time
140.
in the Players' Championship Series through last year, which is exactly what he needs to do. He doesn't need to be any better than he was last year. He just needs to do that.
Maintain the high standards. And Stephen Bunting should, at some point, get over the winning line.
180.
Yeah. Look, Stephen Bunting was in 6 finals last year that he lost. And he won the Masters.
130.
It could have been an astonishing year if he just won half of those finals. And he was close in many of them.
59. $105.
Chance here to wrap this one up.
He always starts on the ball for 1-2-1, but he doesn't seem to do it for 1-2-2. 4-18s. If we get all 6, it's 7-7. Oh, match start miss for a 6-1 win.
Hits the ball when he doesn't want it. How often do you see that? But he tidies up
7th
superbly, and Callan Rydz is staying in this game. He's still got to win 4 more legs. There was much more assuredness about that checkout. Some of the darts at double, as you mentioned, Dan, have been pretty ropey, to say the least.
Just feels 99. Like too big a mountain to climb. If this was, Stephen Bunting averaging 90, you think, well, yeah, Rydz could obviously rattle off 4 legs. Don't drop below 15 darts, quite capable 91. Of that. But you just think that Bunting, in this kind of mood, he's going to find either a 15 darter on throw, or he'll exploit a mistake from Rydz, or maybe he'll just fire in one of those brilliant 11 or 12 dart legs to get it won. This could be one of them. Because that's a maximum to leave 130. And this is a top draw display from the 41. Bullet.
5 maxes in the last 6 legs for Stephen Bunting. Didn't have to pile another one into the 20 segments.
121.
So to wrap up, a 6-2 win and move through to the last 16.
Game shot.
The Bullet downs the riot and progresses through with an excellent display. He is playing some good stuff today, Stephen Bunting. He is back in the winner's circle. 50% on